Alright guys, my name's Sean Bilger, PDGA 92544. This is my beginning of 2020 in the bag. Start off thanking my sponsors, Bria Disc Golf, got the little sticker on here repping them, little polo repping them as well. So I carry the cart around when I can for tournaments, and I got my Gorilla Boy for courses where I can't bring the cart, casual rounds, things like that. So let's get right into it. Let's start with putters. Start with putting putters. I have two Proto medium Keystones. Switched to the Keystone maybe 8 months ago, something like that. The Wardens tended to stay loud on me. The Keystones I can just pop, and I know they're going to stay straight all the way out to like 50, 60 feet. I'm making way more longer putts, consistently putting. Use these through Winter League, grabbed a whole bunch of these medium Proto Keystones because they feel great. I'll throw these too for little upshots, anything within 200 and in. It's nice and short, little hyzer flip to straight shots. But yeah, these have been great. They're similar feel to the Wardens, but they're straighter. Don't need to put as much pop on them, so they're much easier for me. I don't have to worry about really getting on them towards the edge of the circle, outside the circle. Another putter to my bag, longer putts, maybe a little more wind. Also a throwing putter is this is an Envy. Yeah, been messing around with the Keystone and the Envy a little bit. The Envy's much more stable than the Keystone, so I'll throw these for straight to stable shots as well as longer hyzer putts, kind of little, if I need little flex shots, because the Keystone won't come out of that flex, but Envy's been an awesome addition to my bag. And then we'll go to throwing putters all together here. I have 3 in the bag right now. This is a Glow Envy. This is a little more stable than the medium one I have there. This is purely throwing, while the other one I will jump putt with and putt with from longer distance with. Glow Envy, it's a little beat up, so it's pretty much just straight now. Definitely more stable than the Keystones. This is my straight to stable putter, and they feel great. Super flat top, so they feel great in the hand. Now my overstable flick and just overall throwing putters. I threw the harp for the longest time, pretty much since I started playing. Kind of neglected the zone, just kind of didn't even mess around with it. I picked up a zone and haven't looked back at all. They're very shallow, so they're good for forehands as well as fan grips. I fan grip all my putters. Fan grip up shots, I mean, these things go a long ways too. I can get these out to 375 or 275, 280. This one's a little beat up, so it'll hold the line. I can throw a little Annie forehands with it, and it'll pretty much just hold that and glide out. Very useful in the woods up here in PA. And Huck Lab stamp, you'll notice I have a lot of Huck Lab stamp in my bag because I think it's awesome. Another one is this is a Crystal Flex Zone, softer, definitely more overstable because this is newer than the Z Zone that's been in my bag for a while. Same thing as the Z Zone, a little more overstable, tends to stick a little bit because it is that flex plastic, so it will stick. But between these two zones, the zones are probably my most thrown disc in any round. Anything inside 275 comfortably, if I can flex a zone, if I can flick a zone, if I can just throw a hyzer with a zone, I'm throwing the zone. On to mid-ranges. We'll start with, looks like I have 4 in the bag right now. The molds will stay the same generally in my bag, but the number of them will change from time to time depending on the course. A lot of different courses up here between really short wooded courses and longer courses up here in PA, while most of it is wooded. So we'll start with understable and go to overstable. This is a team stamped P-Line MD4, which is barely an MD4. It is extremely flippy. You can let it go on a hyzer, it's going to pop up and just ride right. It's basically, it replaced my C-Line MD that I was throwing for a little bit. But it feels like my MD4s, and I love that feel. So this is a very, very flippy MD4. I like to joke that I have the flippiest MD4 ever made. But it's an awesome disc, still reliable for what it's needed for, super beat up, and the P-Line feels really nice in the hand. And then we'll go, I have a Crowned Eagle MD3. Sometimes I will carry 2 of these. This is my more beat up one. I have a fresher one as a backup, but sometimes I'll carry both of them. The MD3 replaced my Emax. It straight to stable, it gets beat up a little bit, it's just straight. I can hyzer flip this to flat and it finishes just slightly, or if I let it go flat, it'll finish a little left. but these MD3, especially the Color Glow plastic, feels awesome. I've adapted a lot of the Color Glow plastic into my bag. So MD3, either one or two of them at all times. And then step up from that, I have a Glow Discmania Shield MD4. This is 180 grams, so absolute max weight, and this thing is beefy, extremely flat, so I'll use this for big hyzers. I'll forehand this from time to time. I don't often forehand mid-ranges. A lot of times I'll just use my zone or step up to my Firebirds and my FD2s. So, but this one gets a lot of work in my bag. It's a very workable, overstable, trusty disc. And then here I have, this is actually an Eagle Claw stamped MD3, but it's actually an MD4. It's an MD3 stamp on the MD4, and this is way more overstable than even the other MD4. Same thing, just more overstable. Flex shots, hyzers that'll hold it straight to finish, forehand annies. This disc can do a lot. So the MD4 is my main workhorse in my bag because they're overstable, but they're not unusable overstable, which I love. We'll go on to fairway drivers. We'll go there. Let's see, 2, 4, 6. I have 7 fairway drivers in my bag right now. First one, starting from flippiest to most overstable, TDX. I struggled with this understable slot in my bag for a long time. I tried Roadrunners, I tried everything from the Trilogy lineup. I was throwing Leopards, Mavericks. This is understable but not crazy, unusable roller understable. I can let this go on a hyzer, pretty big hyzer. It'll flip up and then turn to the right. Does not get much use in my bag. Standstills in the woods, crazy turnover shots where I don't have room to forehand. This doesn't get used much, but it's definitely a useful disc in my bag and will always be in my bag. I feel like it's a must-needed thing. A step up from that, let's see, I have my FD, so I have a Lazat S-Line FD. It's fairly flippy for an FD. It's been beat in pretty well. I can let it go flat and it's just going to slowly turn right, or I can let it go on a little bit of hyzer. It's going to pop up, go straight, finish. If I let it go on enough of a hyzer, it will just hold that, and the FDs do what they do. They stay in the air for a long, long time. So these FDs anywhere out to 350, 360, anything tight wooded, no wind. I'm throwing these FDs because I know what they're going to do. They're reliable. Step up from that is a Night Strike, Nate Perkins Night Strike 2. This is newer and definitely more stable than the S-Line Lazat. I had this in my bag. I also had the Swirly S-Line FDs in my bag, but they were way more overstable than I expected. The Swirly FDs were almost my FD2s, so the Night Strike's in my bag. It's basically just a fresh FD, a step up from the Lazat. A lot of my bag is very minimal, where I'll have a small amount of molds and then 2 or 3 of the same mold in my bag. So these 2 FDs get a lot of work in my bag. And then currently my favorite disc, a disc that I found this year, a disc that I feel like I've been missing for a long time, the Royal Rage FD2. I was throwing Explorers, I was trying T-Bird 3s. This is an Explorer, but it feels better in my hand. The Color Glow plastic's awesome. This thing is very, very beat up. I got it when they first came out last early spring, and this will hold any line I put it on. If I let it go on a little slight Annie, it's just going to stay on that slight Annie. I throw it straight, it's going to go straight and finish straight. Unlike the FDs, where the FDs will work and turn, these are just laser beams. No matter what line you put them on, it's a laser beam. So this is my beat up Color Glow FD2, and then I have a newer one with the little Huck Lab stamp on it. Thought that was cool. This one's brand new, just as a backup to that, but this is obviously more overstable than the other, so a little more wind, want a little more bite at the end, I'll take out the Huck Lab one. And then for my overstable discs, Color Glow FD3. These things are beefy, they are flat, and they're awesome. The Color Glow plastic, again, like I've said, is probably my favorite. It's tacky, but still very firm, but has some nice grip to them. So these I'll throw on a forehand, backhand. You can flex these and know that they're always going to come out. Big spike hyzers. I throw this disc a lot. I used to have Felons and Firebirds and Criminals in my bag, and I would only use them sparingly, mainly for forehands. But as my arm's gotten better, I can get this FD3 out to 350 pretty easily. Flex lines, big hyzers that will still push forward. It's not so overstable that's going to fall out of the sky. So Color Glow FD3. Step up from that, I have this is a Nate Sexton USDGC bottom stamp Huck Lab Firebird. This thing is crazy overstable. I said the FD3 pushes forward, this thing just wants to come out of the air. So thumbers in the woods, forehands, hyzer skip shots, and I know will just fall out of the sky. Firebird. I mean, the FD3 and the Firebird are basically the same thing. If I close my eyes, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So those are my overstable fairways, and we'll go to distance drivers now. All right. We'll start with the slower speeds. I have 2 PDs in my bag right now. Didn't really find a use for the PD for a while. Thought it was the same thing, maybe just like a beat up Firebird, but as my arm's gotten better, these are definitely longer than Firebirds, longer than FD3s. So this is the Colt Montgomery Lone Howl PD. These are definitely not as stable as some of my C-line and some of my penned S-line PDs. This thing will hold straight, but will always finish. Holds up decent in a headwind. I can actually get this to hold a little bit of an ante, and it'll hold the ante and flatten out rather than flex back out. So it's a very workable disc. It's not crazy overstable, but it's overstable enough that I can work with it. So these go out to 360, 370. These are awesome. The newest addition to my bag, I used to carry just a super flat C-line PD. It's this Dark Maul 2. Now these things are beefy. They're super flat, so they're good for forehands, backhands, anything. These things laugh at the wind, doesn't care at all, fights through it. So if I need to step up from the Colt Montgomery one, I'm throwing these. Again, with the Color Glow plastic, they feel awesome, and because this thing is so flat, it just feels great in my hand for backhand or forehand. Really good disc, good addition to the bag. I have is a CD, I call it the Better Wraith. The penned versions of the CD3s aren't as stable, and I like those. I have stacks and stacks of them. So it's an 11-speed driver that flies like a fairway. So it's a longer fairway, but it'll hold whatever I put it on. If I let it go on a hyzer, it'll just push on that hyzer out to like 375. I can flex it. If I let it go flat, it's just flat. This is basically like a longer FD for me at this point. This Penn CD3. So this gets a lot of use in my bag. If there's no wind, and I can point and shoot with this out to 375, which is something I've never had in my bag before. The Penn CD3 is awesome. And then I have these swirly S-line. This is a Hypno Huck die, again with the Huck Lab stuff. I think it's awesome. I have a bunch of penned swirly SD3s, and they're way more overstable. These swirly ones are like a totally different disc, but it feels the same. So these are close to my step up, which are my DD3s, but these swirly CD3s are stable. This will hold up more in a headwind than the beat up one, and if I put it on a little bit of ante, it will actually flex out, and if I put it on a hyzer, it will just hold the hyzer, while the other CD3 will pop up a little bit. So this is basically just a newer CD3, a little more overstable than the other. And then onto my main distance driver. I've gone through a lot of distance drivers. I've tried everything, especially as my arm speed has gotten bigger. It's been hard finding a distance driver that I can get to cover everything. And I very mold minimalistic, so I wanted something in different plastics where I could just get a variety of them and be good to go and have that same feel in my hand. So we'll start with the flippy ones. These are the Echo DD3s that just came out. They're awesome. I can get these things out to 400 comfortably. When I was in the field throwing this, and it blew my mind. I couldn't get the other DD3s in my bag. I used to have an Enigma in my bag, or a Shrike in my bag, and this knocked out both of these. I'm just gonna beat one up and have another one, where I can, out of the box, I can let this go with a little bit of hyzer. It's gonna pop up, it's gonna ride, but as it slows down, because this is a DD3, they're always gonna finish left. So as these beat up, they're only gonna get longer. So I have 2 of them in the bag. They're both 175 grams. This one I'm throwing first. This one will be my fresh backup. I like to carry backups of everything, one fresh, one beat up, so I'm carrying 2 Echo DD3s right now. And then regular DD3s, this is a 168 gram, a little bit of a pop top DD3. It's got like some of the bubbles in the rim. This was my absolute bomber disc before the Echo DD3s. Now this is just a little bit of a headwind. I can flex this a little more than the Echo ones. I kind of have to force it over a little bit. If I let it go flat, it's just straight to finish. Not as much distance as the Echoes, but still reliable, needed in my bag. Then my overstable DD3s, or Cloud Breakers. I always have 1 or 2 of these in the bag. This is the 3rd run super domey pop top DD3s, and these things are crazy overstable. I can throw these on a forehand, I can throw these on a backhand. These will hold up into headwinds, so depending on the wind, I might have 2 of these in my bag. I might just have 1 in my bag. It all depends, but the DD3 will be in my bag because it is so long and so overstable. I've never thrown an overstable distance driver that has given me this much distance. Usually, if it's too overstable, it just dumps. Even when these things slow down and finish left, they're still pushing forward, which is something I've never had before. So DD3, I've stocked up on probably more of these than I should have, but this is an awesome day, especially these that are this super domey run is awesome. And then go to the top of the bag. I think I got some stuff up here. This is a D-line FD. This is a 174 gram D-line FD that you can just do crazy stuff with. Little patent pending shots in the woods. I can just flick it out there with my wrist and it's going to go out and just turn to the right. Crazy rollers. If I throw it on a hyzer, it will actually